son. Where'd you find this?
Buckle up, buttercups. It's time to get down to business. It's the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. Totally legit.
It's the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast, and we're back once again. And today we've got a very special guest. Oh, I'm super appreciative. He gave me his time right before he's about to go back out on the road. Evan Anderson, everybody.
Hello. Hi.
So welcome to the show. This is a show just like Seinfeld with no real purpose or direction. So we're just gonna talk about the exciting and interesting life that you lead.
I have an exciting and interesting life. Okay, I'm all about it. I'm totally legitimate now.
Yeah, exactly. You're official because you're on the show. I guess just for the folks that'll be watching this, why don't you give people a quick rundown of the things that you do, and then we'll kind of break out into the story.
Sure. I work as a roadie. This is, I think, the start of my 18th year.
Damn.
Primarily for the band 311. I've worked for Sheryl Crow and for Trans-Siberian Orchestra. There's a pop artist named Max, and then a handful of other smaller tours, and then some freelance audio work, but the bread and butter has been in touring, and
Sure.
It's mostly office work, so production work. And currently I fell completely upwards into the tour management role, and I'm white knuckling it the entire time. There's people who are really good at it, and I don't think I'm there just yet. So that's my synopsis.
Well, everyone's got to get there, and especially with this kind of work, a lot of it is just being there at that moment. A window opens up, and they need someone to fill that role, and you just kind of jump in and you learn along the way.
No question.
And like you've been with that crew for a long time. I'm assuming you guys are a pretty tight knit group. It's like a family kind of vibe.
Very much so. Long enough that I'm older than any of the band guys were. In reference to 311. I'm older than they were when they hired me at this point.
Wow.
I thought they were old then. So I felt really old.
Now, at what point did you say, I want to do this? This is an opportunity for me, and this is where my interests lie.
Almost never, really. I dropped out of college, a spot in Dubuque, Iowa, Clark College. I was working at a record store, and I had discussed with just for full clarification, this is total nepotism. My uncle's one of the band members. So I've always known the guys, no interest really in being a part of it because I didn't really know it existed. And I remember I would have been like 18, 19, and he was talking about some road stuff and blah, blah, blah. And a few weeks later, they had a staffing crisis, if you will, where they had informally announced that they weren't going to really do a summer tour that year. This would have been summer of 2006. Mm-hmm. And then they were, so they had to quickly just grab people, and for roles that needed somebody with experience, they grabbed those people, and then roles that didn't need it, they grabbed those people. So if you had a pulse, you were in. And I did it. I worked at a record store, told the manager I was going to go on tour. He pretty much said, cool, sounds great, call me when you're back. And I went and did it, did a terrible job, didn't really like it. And then the next summer rolled around again, and I got asked again, and I was kind of flummoxed that they would even ask me, and I said sure, and it's just snowballed. There's been absolutely no master plan to this. I can't express that enough. There's just really, truly, there's no plan. That's how I got into it.
Well, is there ever really a plan?
Some people, yeah, like it's really kind of it's impressive to hear them talk about 5 years, 10 years, and then you look back and you can see that they did certain things. And for me, I'm just kind of bouncing through emails and bouncing through cities, and now my hair's gray.
Yeah, we're old now for sure. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's let's kind of backtrack a bit. We first met playing shows in high school. I guess your high school band and my high school band. It's like skate parks
and the Joyo Theater.
Yeah, the Joyo, Knickerbockers, maybe even. Like music, there was a small group of us where we were always clearly about music, and a lot of us gravitated toward music adjacent jobs, but we all still do music. So I guess my question is, like, for you, did it make sense because it's like I already enjoy and love this thing? I'm working at a record store. You know, was it a simple thing for you to be like, all right, well, here we grip it and rip it. Here we go.
Yeah, to an extent, and a lot of it though came from the fact that I just didn't even know what I was getting into. I had no idea, and my role was band assistant, so it was grab dirty laundry, make sure it goes out, grab copies, make sure it gets to a mouth, go around the venue. There was no digitization then, so I remember showing them how to set up a wireless router in the office. So at that point, I was allowed in the office. They're like, okay, great, you can run this shit instead of waiting on the hallway. And then it was running around and putting flyers up around the venue, the day sheets and everything. So I really had no idea, none whatsoever. I think I made like $600 a week because, as I found out later, the production manager at the time, who was with the Ramones for 30 years.
Wow.
Didn't think I was going to last. He was like, oh, this is the fucking singer's nephew. Who the fuck is this? No, he's just out of high school. And I really truly was in like a year and a half. So he just thought this was just a whole bunch of bullshit and this wasn't going to last. So a couple of weeks into it, randomly I got like a bump in pay. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I guess that's because I'm doing a great job. I was just so naive. So there really was, I mean, music adjacent, sure. I mean, you can see guitars everywhere, but there's so much more into it. I mean, you're spending 14-hour days to service an hour or 20 of performance. So I had no idea.
Yeah.
The only thing I knew is that there were shows going on, obviously, and that was the extent of it. So, yeah, there was a grip it and grin it for sure, I guess, but not really. It was more so, don't let anyone down. This is kind of cool. And then when it's done, you get to go home. So I guess it was more so like punishment.
Yeah, it's a pretty reasonable punishment. You know, I feel like that's, I mean, you're definitely right about 50% of the logistics portion of music events. You just have to have a pulse. And I think when you do show any level of awareness beyond yourself, that becomes super valuable. I mean, that's how I got involved doing event production too. I had no plan. It was not a thing that I necessarily wanted to pursue, but
you had insights.
You know, I worked.
You could figure it out.
And again, it's like I always, from playing shows, I always liked the whole process, practicing and moving all the gear and getting the set together. Like I love the whole, like the logistics element of it. So to get paid to be in that scenario instead of paying to go see a show, it just kind of made sense, especially when I was like right out of college. And I mean, kind of the same thing with Fish. Like I worked enough jobs and met enough people, and then at one moment they needed somebody in New York, and I was there.
You were with Fish?
For a long time, yeah. Anytime they or Trey would come through New York, I was like their PA. And even, dude, okay, so their manager...
Mahoney would love to meet you. Tim Mahoney, he's...
Really?
After their show, he goes under the bus and listens to the goddamn Fish show from that night that they
the
put
recording,
out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, on his phone, I can't believe it. You just did a show. You want to listen to a show? Oh my God.
That is so funny. Well, I'm sure he can get into a Fish show, but like I will literally...
You'd be surprised. I mean, I don't know if it's shyness or what, but he was always like, yeah, man, it'd be so great to go. You know, and I'm just going like, I don't know anyone, but now fuck. Wow.
No, and I'm not even kidding you. Like I worked with their manager the most, like their road manager, Richard Glasgow. And Richard Glasgow is just a fucking legend in his own right. But I'm pretty sure his first tour as a tour manager was U2's Joshua Tree when he was like in his 20s. Like, this dude is a fucking legend. So anytime he, Trey, Tab, Fish would come through for whatever, I was the gopher. Driving stuff, picking up, guitars, dropping shit off, grocery shopping for whatever. And again, it's like, there's two things. I don't really like Fish. It's not my music. I'm a metal person. And I think that's why they continued to hire me back, because I wasn't going to fan out on any of it. I honestly didn't know that culture was as deep as it is until I started working for them and going to Fish shows and like seeing like, oh shit, this is a whole ecosystem.
Without totally screwing myself, there's the same thing at 311 where.
Oh, I'm sure, dude. The culture's thick.
Well, I can sniff out, like, there's really truly two types of fans, and I mean no disrespect to any of them, but there are 311 fans who listen to 311 only, and then there's fans that also listen to other bands, and I can sniff it out, and I tend to get along with the ones that also listen to other bands. They're not there asking, who ate what for breakfast, or like,
right?
Is this
what
really,
are they going to play tonight?
Are they going to play that
song?
Yeah, and you go like, oh my god, I'm gonna call security on you. You can't be back here, man.
Yeah, you're a risk for sure.
But so I know what you mean, though. Yeah, and like I said, they probably like you too because they're like, hey, I've sniffed him out. He's not like a fish head. He's not crazy about us. Great, keep him on board.
Well, dude, it was so weird. Like there were people that, like, I never toured with them. I would do anytime they did a thing in New York. I was working with them, but I never.
Which was a lot. They do like they do Madison Square Garden, the Baker's Dozen thing. All that.
It's their primary market.
Every night, Tim was talking about the cupcake they had at that damn show. That's the only reason I know about it is because of him.
That is so funny. Well, and I'm not even kidding about this. If there's a time where he overlaps with a fish show and location, I'll get him in. I will call Richard, and Richard will happily give him tickets. That's not even a joke.
Yeah, he'll be psyched to hear that.
There's been, like, basically I don't really do anything with them anymore just because I have other things going on now. But I still notarize stuff for them occasionally. If Richard needs like specific favors, I would absolutely drop what I was doing to help him out. But there's been a few times where I've been in cities while Fish was there, and I don't like the music. I just go to say hi to the people. I'll watch maybe the first 20 minutes of the set, and then I'll
Which is still the first song, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah, if that, it's like maybe the intro. But I guess, like you had to deal with that. I mean, even as a kid, I'm sure, like, what was that like, the pressure of fandom on you for like people trying to get to 311 through you?
Oh, no pressure, because it just didn't exist. I mean, I was so divorced from it. I only knew when they came through for shows, and that was Omaha typically, or Lincoln.
Right.
And since those were hometown shows, which I now am fully a part of on the other side, it's just expected that there's going to be a 180 person guest list. So it wasn't like a thing where all my cousins or friends or anything. It was just Evan's going to be at the show. He's probably going to bring like 4 or 5 guys. And that's fine. So it was really never any kind of pressure. I spoke to somebody not too long ago about when I kind of figured out what was going on, that the band existed. I used to live in Lincoln, where we're both you're not from, but we both lived there. I lived right by Rousseau Elementary, so right off of 33rd, and I was on Randolph. Right next door to me were these older kids that went to Southeast already. I would have been maybe in 6th grade. Yeah, they were a couple of grades ahead, so they were already at Southeast. They're instantly the cool kids on the block because they were older and they skateboarded and all this shit.
Sure.
And I remember they were hanging out on the stoop essentially, and I kind of ambled over and stayed outside the circle because I didn't really know if I was allowed there yet. And one of their friends came rolling up, shaking his head in disbelief, and he goes, "You guys got to listen to this." And it was Grassroots, so it's the 311 second
Amazing.
album. And they're all kind of looking at it, and I'm sitting there going, I swear I've heard that name from somewhere. 311. And I'm like racking my brain going like, do I try and spring it? Because that sounds really familiar. And I finally did, and I got the fuck out of here. No way. Kicked me off, that kind of thing. And I get a load of this guy. My stepmom comes home, and they rush her car, and they're like, is your uncle or is your brother in 311? And she goes, no. And they're like, I knew it. And he goes, but it was my stepmom. And she goes, but his actual mom, it's her younger brother. And from that point on, I was always allowed to hang out with him. I couldn't skateboard. There was nothing else cool about me. I wasn't handy. I wasn't clever or creative. But that was the first time I was like, oh shit! I not only did I get that right, that opened some doors. I didn't let it go to my head, I don't think. But no, there was never really any kind of pressures with that. I just found it interesting to kind of be privy enough to seeing how much they have to go and do things. I mean, I never saw this guy. Lots of people see their uncles a couple times a year, see family like that. And I saw all of my family constantly, except for him for years. So that was the only realization, was that A, he didn't live here anymore, and B, he seemed really busy.
Yeah, he was always doing something.
Yeah.
So at what point does it become like a level of awareness that you have to get? Like at what point is it after you start working with them and you just start, when you're around the entire scenario more and you start to see the weird angles where people try and leech themselves in?
A lot of that's covered by security. One thing I've always found incredibly effective at a large show is to put the lovely, sweet grandmas that are in security jackets, put them at the backstage entrance, because no one can sweet talk their way through them. No one's going to get pissed at them and cuss them out. If you put the big drunk dudes, the drunk dude is going to try and fight him, try and figure out a way to needle him. No one's doing that to the old ladies. It's absolutely civilizing, if you will. But I've always found the biggest issue on a large tour, or maybe tours of any size, I really don't know, is people's own personal guests. It's really hard to know if somebody knows how to act or how to act right. So more often than not, the commotion or the ruckus, or somebody's in the dressing room, or somebody's eating the band's after-show food. Somebody on the crew's going, sorry, that's Joe. I've known him since high school. And I'm like, yeah, well, you can't have him back here anymore. Joe's banned for a year. Yeah. So more often than not, fans get back there and they're scared and they're looking around, and if they're brought back, I'm not saying if they sneak in, but they're reverent in a certain way because they've never been there. But somebody gets brought in and they just go, cool, that means all these beers are for me. Yeah. That means I can put my feet up. All these chairs are for me. Nice office you got here. And you're in there going, yeah, we're working in it. Get out. Who are you with? And it almost always links to a crew member. So that's really the only time that it's ever an issue, is when people bring guests. And more often than not, they're charming, wonderful people. And they're a good hang. But that's typically the biggest problems, are someone's friend that they know.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are very few bands that have the level of following and commitment and fandom as 311 or Fish, even Deftones we were talking about. They're institutions at this point. Like very few bands are still continuing to play shows and put out music from their era. And it's super cool to just see, on paper, 311, there's no reason 311 should be as successful as they are. Yeah. On paper. Yeah, like a reggae rock metal band from Nebraska. You know what I mean? But they had, their style was so unique, it transcended genre. It transcended space and time. So
they're tenacious too. I've never seen those guys necessarily take a full no as far as the industry is concerned.
Yeah.
They've just never done it. I've seen a lot. I've been with them now 18 years. There's been a lot of years where you get the impression that things are maybe a little lean, or there's some shows aren't doing as well as they should, and some avenues are maybe closing up. Undaunted, there's always you come back out for the road. You come back out to the road, and there's always a new avenue suddenly opened up, and you're going, "Oh my God, we can play these places now! Holy shit!" Yeah, it does work out for you guys somehow. You guys give all the luck in the world. Good for them. But yeah, it's one of those things where they've never had a serious roadblock, where a lot of bands, I think, would be lessened and wrecked by some of the setbacks that they've seen.
Well, and just as people, they seem like they've always been like it's the original members. They're all still friends. They don't hate each other. It's not like Pink Floyd kind of shit. Bands
there's not separate dressing rooms. There's not like they don't have 5 separate buses, that kind of thing. Yeah. They all fly together, that kind of thing.
That in itself is just unique. When you look at the other bands from that era, very few are the original members and like each other. I don't know. There's probably an ethos behind the work that they put in, and they do put in work. It's a little bit luck, but it's also the fact that they're just willing this shit with good vibes. Like always, they've always had a good vibe. I've never heard any like dark scandals about 311.
I've personally seen a couple of the members have severe disagreements on the road. Not necessarily something where they're slinging, mudslinging and nasty insults and stuff, but really having it out. And then a few minutes later, somebody would walk by and go, "Oh, hey, how you doing? It's nice to meet you. I'm that person's friend." And I'll watch that person who was just at it with that other band member go, "Oh, nice to meet you. It's so great to have you here." There's at least something there's humanity there where it's not like, "Oh, get the fuck out of my face and go tell him to do the same," that kind of deal. It's never, I've never seen that. So
no, for sure. It really is like one of the only reasons a band can make it that long. You have to have that kind of love and affection for the extended family of what you do. And again, like a lot of people don't, I didn't realize this when I started working for Fish. These are institutions. There's like a whole ecosystem that exists around the stuff that these people have created.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure in similar to Fish, the fandom of 311 is its own, culture of people who are just going on all the cruises, going to all the shows.
And you said the cruises right there. That was the first time that I kind of realized it. We've done 311 days and we've done big shows, and festivals are one thing. You look at the bill and the lineup and you know that a good majority want to see your band, but a lot of them are there for the lineup.
Right.
And 311 days are a special celebration where it's not pedestrian in that it's in a venue, but it's in a venue, so it's expected. You announce it ahead of time, people fill it up. The cruise, though, when we first did that was the real eye opener because none of us had any idea. I found out years later that the guys had turned it down a couple of years prior.
Oh,
to
really?
That. Yeah, they just almost across the board said no.
Yeah.
Until there were some other bands that had some success with it, and I remember getting out to that, and that blew me away because I was going, "What the hell is this going to be? What's it going to be like?" The boat was packed. It was completely sold out. It was only our fans.
That's awesome.
and as you're walking down the hall, like different, not to use the word cliques, but there was these groups, and they were, one group did beads, the other group did guitar picks, the other one did lapel pins, and they were going, "Oh, you're with the crew. Here you go. Here's your packet," and it was really wild. It was almost like dormitory style, where everyone had like their clan sign outside their door. That was what really kind of threw me through a loop, was that we were able to not only fill a boat, but then take everyone internationally. Everyone remembered their passports. We all went to another country. We all went to the beaches there. Then we all got back on and came back home safe. Wild. That was what really blew me away.
It's crazy. It's super cool.
Yes. And we've been doing, I think we have it's like our 8th or 9th one next year or something like that. So, which we're already talking about. We're already planning.
That's so fucking sick.
But that was the big eye opener of going, this is something that's now self-organizing.
Yeah. Again, it's cool. There are very few bands in general that ever reach that level of success, but especially from this era. Yeah. And it's just been incredible to like watch them evolve with the times. The same thing with Deftones, same thing with, I don't listen to Fish, but it's been interesting to see that they don't even get radio play, and they can make it work because their fandom just, really loves the shows that they put on.
13 nights in a row at Madison Square Garden. That's insane.
Billy Joel can't even do that. And on top of that, they're not playing the same songs every night.
Yeah.
Like Billy Joel, if he were to do that, he would play the same fucking set, maybe a couple variations, but by and large, it'd be the same set. But every night, dude, and I watched their rehearsals, and again, not into the music, but those guys, Trey's one of the best guitar players alive. That band, watching them telepathically communicate musically was trippy. People would come in to do guest slots. Derek Trucks, I got to watch Derek Trucks and Trey just shred at each other for multiple days.
Sure.
I'm sure you get that too. Like Chad Sexton, one of the best rock drummers alive, doing it. Even just being around that and getting to watch them warm up is like, this is sick. I cannot believe I'm getting to like watch these people play around with, iconic music.
I've been doing stage work forever with them as well. So I've got my in-ears and I've got my pack, and it is neat. There's a cheat sheet there where you hear how they, even like technical shit, how they structure their playback tracks, how they structure metronome and click levels, and when they use 16th notes and when they use 8th notes. And that's just something that it's like a master class that I'm also getting paid to be there for. And then also getting to hear them, a direct input of that microphone on that cab and go, okay, wow, he's actually pretty good at this. And it just kind of starts getting ingrained in you, certain things that people would pay untold amounts of money to have that kind of immersion,
access,
and I guess
yeah.
training, and I'm just there thinking about when the show's over.
So you said you also worked for Sheryl Crow. Like, what was the difference in vibe, in culture of Sheryl Crow as compared to 311? Just overall.
So that was my first country tour. So that was my first exposure to that world, and that was she was opening for Rascal Flatts.
Oh wow!
They had somebody just quit. And the production manager, front of house guy, Chris, just called me up. I was in a cornfield in Nebraska. When he called me, and I mean
as
that,
one does. As
literally,
one does.
yeah. I was telling him like this couldn't be any better. He's like, I need you to fly to Montreal tomorrow, and I said, okay, sure. So ran to Omaha, flew out. It was interesting because the Rascal Flatts were at that point massive, and that was my first exposure to a big tour.
Yeah.
Plenty of sheds out there, plenty of arenas can fit a variety of shows so long as the promoter's selling up tickets and enough booze. But big shows where you're bringing in stage and you're bringing in pyro and there's going to be laser and I'm a tour manager. How am I forgetting the word? The steam effects, cryo. That was my first exposure to that. And to walk into a production office and there'd be 10 people in it, all with folding tables put together in an island with their laptops, and they're all circling the wagons and going, oh my God, it takes that much for a tour this size.
Yeah.
You got one person that's only looking at runners. You got one person that's only looking at the band. One person only looking at the crew. One person only looking at Cheryl. One person only. That was interesting. So that culture was fascinating because it became a thing where, and same with my time on TSO. You're not to say you're a number, but you really do have to kind of slot in. Everything is family style.
Yeah.
People might not learn your name. They'll recognize your face, and hopefully they're a good person, and they're taking in considerations for your well-being and comfort. But don't expect the production manager, and in some cases, hope the production manager doesn't know your name.
Right.
That kind of
Exactly.
deal. So that was fascinating. She was an absolute delight. I didn't know what to expect, but she had a wardrobe case, this giant white one that looked like it was 50, 60 years old, maybe restored, but it opened up into a vanity wherever she went. I remember setting it up in her room, getting it set up and kind of going through my notes. And it was kind of like a side deal because I think it was her assistant that quit, and the assistant maybe also was doing production stuff. So I slotted in, and I remember setting it up and looking in the mirror, and she was in the room, and I'm thinking, shit, is this like a Prince thing? Like you can't look in my eye, you can't talk to me. And I kind of started backing away. She's like, "Oh, thank you so much for setting that up." And I'm like, "You're welcome."
Cool.
Because again, I don't know how this works, but no, she was super sweet. And one of my favorite memories of that tour is towards the end of it. I was only out for 2 weeks. It was the tail end of their run. I was cleaning out a road case, helping them kind of pack stuff up, and I found this box that had 8x10s, black and whites of her. Had to have been 70, 80 of them. All of them signed with gold Sharpie that they were tossing out. So I kept them.
Amazing.
And for years in the Midwest, that was as good as gold. It was currency.
Yeah,
I was
for
like
sure.
going to my buddies' houses, and their mom like, "Hey, how you been, Miss So and So? Here, do you have your signed Sheryl Crow yet?" And I come back years later, and they're still on a mantle somewhere.
That's awesome.
Actually, yeah, it was that was the ultimate tour bartering steal I've ever made.
Ground score, baby.
Yeah, that was great.
Sick. So when did you work for TSO? What years?
12 and 13, 2012, 2013, something like that.
Because that guy I was telling you about, Chris Hoffman, he also worked for TSO for a long time.
East or West?
Oh shit, I don't know.
A lot of people don't know that that's actually like a hired gun thing and they do their rehearsals in Council Bluffs at that Mid-America Center every year.
Yeah.
It's an entire month, and they build in that arena. If you're looking kind of top down, they build a stage over here with whatever catwalk and stuff, and then front of house, and then they build the exact same one on the other side facing each other. And one's for East Coast, one's for West Coast. And yeah, it's all hired guns. So there's times on that tour where, and I don't think it's a huge thing to say, but I mean, they're making like $500,000 a guarantee per show. per side and doing matinees. So that entire tour is making in like, that was at one point ranking like $2 million a day.
Yeah.
Because they had one rolling all the way up over the East Coast and one going all the way over the West Coast. I was West Coast, so.
Wow.
But we were all there at the same time, like 300 crew in the Mid-America Center for about a month.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you which crew he was on, but it is.
Was he doing monitors?
I think so. I'm pretty sure he was still doing in-ears for on-stage talent. But maybe he was later. Maybe he was later. Because I think that might have still been like the tail end of the time that he was with Incubus. I just don't remember. Or I guess
those
not.
Guys,
he was still with Deftones because around 20. Or no, I don't know. I'd have to ask him. But they would be hilarious, and I wouldn't be shocked if at some point you guys cross paths.
The name sounds strange and familiar, so I'm gonna have to actually go and find the old tour book and check it out. But TSO had a thing where they had so much goddamn money, and they loved their crew. They just splurged taking care of everyone, and they tried to salary steal everyone they could. So like they would go, who's the best out there? It's this guy for Incubus. Great. We'll triple his pay and keep him forever with us. And like they were trying to steal a guitar tech from Metallica at one point, which I just saw a video of Metallica at a stadium. I saw that guitar tech, so I thought, oh shit, TSO didn't get him, I guess. But yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And it is par for the course is that there was just a lot of people around the industry that they just grabbed. Yeah, you're coming out with us for the winter because you're not doing anything else, and we're going to pay you an absurd amount of money to tell your family goodbye during the holiday season. So
it's all a trade-off, and it's just a holiday. It's just a holiday. You make up for it. Mm-hmm. And I guess that brings up a good question. Like, what important life lessons has living this kind of life taught you?
None. No. Important life lessons.
Like you're telling me you haven't had one epiphany, like one backstage moment where you're like, whoa, that is some deep shit.
This prepares you for a lot. This prepares you. You become a Swiss Army person where I'm far more capable of a lot of things than somebody else my same age that maybe took a more pedestrian path in life. I've seen it all. I've experienced it all. I've seen ways of dealing with it, dealing with things. I've seen plenty of ways of not how you deal with the situation. And it makes you wise beyond your years. And I'm trying to say that without sounding like a total shit eater, because I don't tend to say, or I'm not trying to say that that's me, but I feel like I'm far more lived than a lot of people. Just because 100%, of this compressed exposure to every day you're doing extreme crazy shit,
intense
constantly,
shit,
and you still have to be able to eat at a restaurant with your mouth closed, that kind of thing. I mean, there's a lot of that where the experiences just in general round you out better than most experiences.
Definitely forged in fire kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I notice that with a lot of people on the road. They just have that glimmer in their eye where you're just going like, oh, you've done touring before. You're here as a local venue help. We're going to be just fine. You get it. I don't know, like, and not just for this gig, but you just understand how a day works. I guess there's a lot that you can get. There's a lot you can get done in a day if you need to, and it escapes a lot of people, I think. Yeah,
for sure.
I was going to note that one thing that it spoiled me on is that of our friend groups from people where we grew up, and I'm thinking in my mind of Lincoln, I've been able to see all of our friends. Everyone else has to kind of wait for Thanksgiving or Christmas for somebody to come home and then see them at Duffy's at some point, for a night. But I travel around constantly, so I got this unique perspective. I realized years ago, like, oh my God, I've seen everyone every year constantly, kind of in their own environment.
Yep.
And I feel kind of grateful for that. That as everyone's age, I don't get to see people don't show up to me 2 or 3 years older each time. It's a gradual, natural process with people that have spread out around the world since high school.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I like that aspect of it.
Definitely. I mean, in Nashville, it was simple because a lot of people would always kind of, it was like a city that everyone would at least stop to sleep in. So all of my friends who were in bands or lived other places and were traveling through, I was pretty fortunate there. But New York, the same. Like I posted up here, and one of my big concerns was that I was never going to see anyone. It's just an expensive trip to come vacation in New York City.
Sure.
But then a lot of my friends started doing tour and production, event production, and would find their way through New York. I still get to see the people that I really do not want to let years go by without seeing them. I still do get to see them because at some point they're going to pass through New York. I don't know. It's like that is an unintended benefit of the mobile job portion of it.
A lot of people don't get that. They see the people that they see in their day-to-day lives, in their routine. God bless them, nothing against that, but it's just how it is. They have to wait for special events, or they have to every couple of years when things line up. And at least with me, my schedule, where I'm going to be is publicly announced. And so people come out of the woodwork, and you go, "Oh my God, that's great! Yeah, every year, I
see you there.
Friends all over come by. They bring their friends. Now they bring their kids, their wives. It's fun, and
that's
awesome. I get to come back into town and go. Guess who I saw last few months? Everyone. It's great. So I do like that part of it.
Yeah, I guess for me, the big life lesson, as cliche as it is the show must go on. You know, like for me, the big thing I took away from doing all that work was shit's going to go wrong. You're going to have to figure out a reasonable way to get around it. The show must go on. And I feel like that I apply that on a daily basis somewhere in my life every day. Even if it's just like my own attitude, like I can't get depressed and derailed about this. The show must go on here. I have to complete my day.
Yeah.
I can be pissed off before I go to sleep and then sleep it off. But, definitely like the Swiss Army man, the thing like that is doing this shit in the level of intensity and scrutiny that you're under
keeps you sharp.
Yeah. You just have to make sure you're paying attention to all the details. And, I guess that's why I probably enjoyed doing this. Again, this isn't work I ever intended doing, but I just started doing it. And because I was somewhat self-aware and had a good attention to detail, I would prove myself and then get tasked with something else, and then prove myself there and get tasked with something else.
Sure.
I don't know. It's been really cool to watch you. And it's also really funny now that I'm thinking about it, because you, Chris Hoffman, there's a couple other people from Nebraska that I know that like.
There's another Evan.
What? Really?
Yeah. In fact, we hired him at one point for. There's two Evans on the road. We were both from Lincoln, and.
What the fuck, dude? That's awesome.
I wasn't cool with it, but then he ended up being great, so I was all about it.
Yeah, he's Evan too, though.
Yeah. No, I made note of that. That's that was the first thing in the group chat. No, there's that, and then there's I know somebody from Omaha that was Taylor Hawkins' drum tech.
Oh, nice.
And he was with, I think now he's with Derek Trucks, I want to say. Mm-hmm. Does drum teching for them. He was with Foo Fighters forever. There's 311's. Oh, this is a great one. The drum tech for 311 for Chad. The only person out there that has more years than me. I think he's on like year 20. Brian Manley, Chad's drum tech. And you might. I don't mean to put the memory in your head, but he went to UNL and he worked as a stage tech at Knickerbockers. He always wore like shabby jeans and a red flannel shirt. He looked like a hobo, so his friends called him Boxcar. But he was there lifting amps up and like running the board because I was out on the road like, I know you from somewhere. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm from Omaha. I'm like, yeah, I know that, but like I know you from somewhere. And he was like, oh, Knickerbockers. I ran sound there forever.
That is
flipping small.
And for sure, this industry also made me zoom in my worldview a bit. I used to think that it was so spread out. And
no, you know everyone.
I was like, man, this is a small fucking world. This shit gets smaller every year that I think it gets bigger. It gets even smaller.
Yeah. That's also a really interesting thing too. Like any festival we go to, or if I'm out somewhere and I see a couple buses parked outside a hotel, I go, I probably know somebody in that hotel right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I probably know someone.
There's a 9 out of 10 chance
that I've toured with them, most likely. Yeah.
That's awesome. Super cool stuff. I don't know how much festival stuff you've had to deal with, but like most of when I started doing it, it was all festivals. And when I moved to New York, I basically got in with a crowd of people, a guy named Dan Jones, who was like the god of IC work in the city and just like worked every event, staffed every event. And we had like this group of people, and it's still this way. If I'll occasionally pick up a festival, it's just really funny. Everyone at the event is super excited for the show. All the New Yorkers who are there just doing a job, it's really funny. It's just like, hey, what's up? Another day at the office. You know what I mean? Except today it's Lil Wayne screaming at me, and or tomorrow it's, fucking Katy Perry or whatever, Cher.
Hell yeah.
It's like, I don't know. The world is small, and there's people that I met a while ago when I was doing other events outside of New York that I'll like bump into in New York, and they've moved here or they're just working with a band. I don't know, the ecosystem of the logistics of events is just a really funny world. It's just a really strange and funny world to spend time in.
We're leaving for Europe in 4 days. We're doing a short run there, and we just played a festival in Columbus, Ohio. There's like 3 different sea cities there. I had to get it straight. We played Sonic Temple, and sure as shit, the manager for the London show, the stage manager, walked into the office and wanted to meet us. And oh my God. He was there on site with Slipknot. I guess he just worked for them. But just one of those things where it's like, hey, I'm Simon, with a British accent. I'm not going to try and ape that. And
we're both here. Figured I'd say, hey,
Yeah, and we're like, oh, great. This is going to save us a couple of emails. But at the same time, like, who has that happen to them at their work? Where he's like, by the way, we can do a noon load in. It's fine. There's going to be no additional charges. We know you got more gear than usual. And we're just going, sweet. Thank you, man. This guy just walked into the office, and we just set the schedule straight. And now he's out. And we're in Ohio, and that's for the London show in a couple of weeks. Like it's really, and it's kind of par for the course too, where we're all just sipping coffees, going, "Okay, cool, great, nice to meet you. That's awesome." It's nutty how global it is, and at the same time, you can usually pick up a phone or look 20 feet over to your left in catering at the festival and go, oh, "That's who you want to talk to."
Yeah.
You go, "Oh my God, that's right."
Yeah, I love it, dude. It's so fun. To just see the sausage get made, and really, especially with like bigger festival type events, like I got to know vendors. Like I would know the people that would bring the porta potties in. I would know the people that were in charge of golf cart, like the boneyard, all the people, all the different areas of the event. You just make, oh, we need this. Oh, I got a person to call. Let me call him. He will make sure that we get that immediately.
Sure.
I don't know. It's just so fun. I've always loved the fact that you go to this event and there's this thing that people are enjoying and they're having a great time. And behind that, there's literally a tiny little town of people that are trying to put it together.
And nobody knows where.
Nobody knows the scale of what is going on right behind that stage. Like the level of organization to bring you that hour of music.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not being dishonest or clever when people ask, "Oh, what do you do for work?" And I go, "I'm a roadie." And it's like it's the spinning wheel of kind of trying to go. And I've heard that word before. What the hell does it mean? And then they start asking questions, and everyone is always enamored. Like, oh my God, it takes all of that. And it's not just the stage ain't just there, the gear ain't just there. Yeah, and now my family, of course, they go to shows and they're talking like, yeah, we saw. I think that was their monitor tech, and I'm going, oh my God,
right. Yeah,
you only know what that is from me. Yeah. That's great. I love it.
They're now they're looking at it all differently. Yeah,
their lighting tech was great. His cues were totally on spot. Like, okay, wow.
I don't know. It's just I guess it's the same way that the reason I started making music is because I wanted to be a part of like a bigger thing and work collaboratively with people to create something that is bigger than what I could just do on my own.
I was exactly the opposite. I got into music mostly because I had bandmates that I were good friends with, but then you'd get a song or two done in rehearsal and they wanted to go play PlayStation.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, that was me going, I got to get really good at this on my own. I can still enjoy these people. We can still have fun, but if I want to do anything with this, can't rely on them. So,
Well, and
I know what you mean, though. I'm sorry.
It was crazy too, because I even remember being a kid and recognizing that you were taking this a little more seriously. Like they were again, for sure.
Oh.
Like 100% just in the content of the guitar parts that you would write. Because in comparison, when I would think about the parts that I was writing, I was like, man, this shit is rudimentary as hell. And I practiced, I played, like Catalyst, we rehearsed all the fucking time.
You played bass, right?
I played bass. Well, I started on guitar. I played bass.
But I have a memory of
Catalyst and that band
Yamaha
Metropolitan
bass.
Ape.
Metropolitan Ape. Oh my God, yes.
It was an Ibanez, but yes.
Oh, Ibanez, that's right.
Even funny about Metropolitan Ape, Dave for a while, Dave Rosser, the guitar player of that band, was in Event Production. I think he works with America still now, maybe.
Band?
Yeah, the band. I think for a while he was teching with them. He worked with that band, The Internet, for a bit. He was writing music with the dude out there too. They got some pretty big song placements. And then Ethan has a band called Gates. The guitar player of Metropolitan Ape has a band that's pretty big out here called Gates.
Ethan, yes.
Ethan Kuser.
Yes. And who was your drummer?
The drummer in that band was Drew Steen, whose older brother is Rylan Steen, the drummer.
I see Drew all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, but you had another drummer at one point. I can't remember this kid's name.
In Catalyst, the drummer's name was Ian Brown.
Ian, that's right. Yes.
He actually Sam, Ian, and I worked on a record during COVID that we're just now wrapping up. We're gonna put out, but we've been doing a bunch of shit, and Ian is in LA. He was playing with this band called Gypsy Hawk for a while. They were on Metal Blade, but they imploded because a couple of the guys were just total dickheads. But he's still out there.
Wow, they're still around. That's
right.
Yeah,
for sure. They're really played out, but they're still around. But Ian's out there. He works with a nonprofit, teaching like drums and music, all sorts of music education to kids in Compton. And like whenever we need drums programmed, we send him the song and he writes up some MIDI and sends it over.
Is he? I don't mean to derail this. Is he writing it, or is he like an E-kit? Like, what is he?
I think he uses an E-kit. Yeah, just as MIDI input.
This is great to know because I've been looking for. I have a lot.
Oh, dude, hit him up.
That are great drummers.
Hit him up.
They understandably they're all like really hesitant about triggering and programming, and I don't give a fuck. That's what I want.
Yeah, please.
So
please.
They send me audio files, and then I have to go through and convert, and then. But that's great to know.
Hit him up.
Because my dream is to have an entire song texted to me, just like the MIDI for it, just show up in an SMS and then go.
The best.
Yeah,
it's the best. It's so much better than dealing with fucking audio. Especially, I personally have always hated mixing. What I like is tracking, writing, and mastering. Those are the phases that I want to be involved in. Mixing, don't really give a fuck about. And
cool.
When I found we had to teach Ian to program drums. But once he got it, dude, I'll send you the record that we worked on. His drum parts are fucking incredible, and he just programs them. And Sam Reisenhoover out in Portland processes them through Superior. Like if Ian would program the drums and then give them to Sam to get to make them sound like they're real. You'll hear. I'll show you the record. You'll hear it.
No, Superior Drummer is it's not just a clever name, man.
It is it's like you're not listening to a metal record without Superior Drummer.
Yeah.
That's on every record. Sorry to break everyone's fucking idea that somebody's actually playing that because they're not.
No, my favorite singer always sings on pitch. Yeah, right.
Exactly, right, totally.
Mm-hmm.
But I 100% remember watching you guys play and just being like, this, at least Evan is taking this a little more seriously than most kids our age, even other kids who were playing in bands. That was immediately noticeable. And so I guess my segue there is that obviously is always been a piece of your life, and putting out music is something that you're going to continue to do just because it's like a compulsory thing that we have to do. It is compulsory.
Yeah. It's compulsory, and I don't know jack shit about promotion or getting perfect distribution and hitting the right things. So I don't worry about it. I just try and get it out. I keep praying that maybe there'd be an avenue in which there's a version of me out there that's like, I love promoting and love finding avenues, and we'll partner up, but I have no interest in going anywhere after the stage of it's mastered, it's ready to go, and put it out, and that's it. So it's compulsory to that extent, and then it's kind of dead to me in a healthy way. So.
Well, I think artistically you have to at some point say, I'm done with this. I've taken this as far as I can take it. It's time for me to move on to a new thing. I learned my lessons. I feel happy with my finished product. Move on.
Yeah, there's in fact, recently I read this. It was a hip hop producer was talking about how he prefers at a certain point when you got a good instrumental, you got a good vibe. He's like, print it and then do all the rest of your work after that. It's like you got your print. Otherwise, you're going to start splitting hairs everywhere. And I've been doing that the past couple of years, where I get to a point where I'm like, this fucking instrumental it's got something. There's a good knock to it. The balance is right. It's got something there. We're going to do vocals. We're going to do extra things. Nope, print. And then it goes into a session as its own 2-track, and you can go from there. But you can't really go back and touch that. It becomes sacrosanct, and then you start to kind of get over yourself.
Yeah,
you realize that this is what you're working with now. That's your bed.
The show must go on.
Yeah,
we have to take whatever this is and make it sound as best as we can sound, and that's all we can do, and then we move on.
Yep.
So I just want to. I've got your pages pulled up, and I want to just quickly share them.
Oh no!
And I'll drop the links in there too. This is your Instagram meta. Love the black and white aesthetic. This is your documentation of your life on the road. Is this all with your iPhone, or do you have a camera?
No, I don't. It's my phone. I don't give enough of a fuck to learn how to use a camera.
It's great, dude.
I had Mr. Kirkendall's class though at Southeast. Did you remember Mr. Kirkendall?
I didn't go to Southeast. I went to Lincoln High.
So we went to Pound together.
Nope, I didn't. I went to Irving. We just know each other from Steve's garage.
Steve Morse's garage.
And playing shows. Yeah, for sure. I moved there when I was 12. The summer From Chaos came out, because that's the record that I listened to the whole summer, because I knew I was moving to Nebraska, and I was like, well, better familiarize myself.
Got to get into 311.
Yeah. But that's when I moved there and went to Irving for 2 years. We were the last 9th grade class, and then I went to Lincoln High. But that we were strictly music. It's crazy to think, like, the schools meant nothing. Like, there was so much intermingling. That was a big, small town. So many of, like, Ian didn't go to Lincoln High. He went to Southeast. Sam, I, and Jordan went to Lincoln High, and then Jordan transferred to Southeast. It didn't matter. It was like we're all just going to be hanging out at the park later anyway. So whatever.
We're going to be at the Joyo. Blah blah.
Yeah,
blah.
right. We are. There's only one thing to do tonight, and we're all going to be there. So.
Speaking of which, I don't mean to derail anything you got going.
No, go ahead.
So there's a band, Zebrahead. You ever heard of them? Kind of like a rap rock, 311-ish kind of thing. 5 members. One of them raps. Massive in Japan. They would clear millions every year playing. I mean, we would go there and do Summer Sonic. Yeah, we would go do Summer Sonic and these huge festivals, and they would be several rungs over us. At one point, though, let's see, past members right there. One of their, Maddie Lewis. Remember Jank 1000?
No fucking way.
Yes, there was an Omahan that got absorbed into that band at the height of their career and was absolutely destroying foreign countries with this band, crushing it. But I remember, I think at one point I used his amp or he used my amps. It was one of those things where we all just showed up at a gig somewhere, and it was, I guess we're all just using each other's gear.
Yeah, total cold mingle. It would be
straight out junior high, Jank 1000, all this kind of shit. But yeah, that guy won a little lottery there. Ended up being a part of a band that is over there at least revered, and in Europe. They're playing some festivals with us coming up here.
Wow.
They're way over us rung wise in the lineup. But little Nebraska factoid.
Dude, they kind of take over. I have a bunch of friends who do like film stuff, who moved to California to do film from Nebraska. There's literally an entire organization called Nebraska West Coast Connection, and it's all people who moved from Nebraska to LA to pursue film. And it's a very, like, there's hundreds of people.
I think I know somebody that would likely be a part of that scene, but Robbie Dufresne.
Yeah, no, dude, Robbie Dufresne is good friends with my buddy Cullen. I don't know if you know Cullen. Cullen went to Omaha, the school in Omaha. But Robbie Dufresne and Cullen are tight. Like they work.
Robbie
on
Dufresne's mom was my elementary music teacher.
This world just gets smaller. It doesn't
Smaller.
get bigger. It just gets smaller and smaller. Even in New York, they have a Huskers bar. The whole thing is like decked out.
I've been to that before. And the weirdest one is in Scottsdale. There's a Husker store.
Oh, Arizona. Yeah, bro.
like 10
Another
years ago.
huge Nebraska community out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really funny. They're Nebraskans are kind of everywhere. They're kind of, I think it's because a lot of people are like, we were fortunate. Lincoln was a pretty progressive town in terms of arts, and we had multiple places we could play all ages shows. Like we were really lucky in that respect.
Really lucky.
But I think what a lot of people didn't like was just like the isolation, and they were able to pursue a thing that they were passionate about, and then they had to go somewhere else to do it on a bigger scale.
Sure.
But the person who got me working for Fish is named Stephanie Yeager. She's from Nebraska. And the reason that I got working with her is because my buddy Dan Jones gave her my number, and she saw that I had a 402 area code.
I still have mine.
And the first job she got me on was Neil Young. He was doing like a 2-week thing at Carnegie Hall, just him. And I was like PAing on the rehearsals at SIR. But yeah, dude,
Got him a
Nebraska,
Pepsi whenever he needed one.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I was in, that was like my first real, that was big. Like, and his crew were like, I saw a guy like yelling at John Mayer. Like he was talking to John Mayer on the phone, telling him not to join Dead and Company. They don't want to see you play Grateful Dead songs. They want to hear you play Your Body is Wonderland. Like it was so fucking trippy, dude. Pink Floyd's production manager was working for Neil Young at that time, and it was just like telling all like the craziest fucking stories. I don't know. It's just so weird. Another one of those situations where because I had the right area code, I got that call first and I took it. So
I've had a couple people were just in minor events, but yeah, the same thing. Like, whoa, 402, and you're going like, oh yeah, you get it. It doesn't exist anymore. You can't get it anymore.
Still got mine. You still got yours, baby.
Still got mine. Yeah.
Right. There's a strange work ethic I find with all the people from Nebraska there, but also who have made it out. I had to shovel snow before I went to school. If 2 feet of snow fell, I had to shovel my driveway, and then my dad would take me to school. Like that, it was just the mentality and work ethic out there is super strong.
Everyone got issued an old Volvo when they turned 16, and
it was mandatory.
Yeah. At one point, it was really weird. That was at one point, everyone had a gray Honda or a Volvo wagon.
Yeah, late 80s, early 90s. Yeah,
everyone had one. That's my memory of high school.
Very strange time to be alive.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to break off here for the second half. For the second half, I want to kind of get more into your music projects. I have those pages pulled up. I just want to kind of talk about your methodology and process behind that. But this is going to wrap the free hour on YouTube. Everybody that's tuned in, thank you so much. Evan, thank you so much for joining me here.
Well, thanks for having me.
I'm going to play this outro, and then we'll head on to the next segment. But thank you again, everybody. And I'm going to put any links that we discussed, plus the music links of yours in the video description so folks can check it out.
Yeah, thank you.
Sick. All right, well, it's been the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast, folks. We'll catch you on the next one.
This has been the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. The end. With your host, James Oliva. Executive producers, Clint G and James Oliva. Literally no one cares. Sound design, mix, and master by James Oliva. When will this end? Thank you for listening. Now get back to work. Moving along, buddy.